it's the military-industrial complex, and of course, unfortunately, there's money being funded to these opposition groups to cause trouble, and now the war on terror is going to be an endless war on terror because they just keep funding all these radical groups. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I completely agree with you. In fact, my plan, my foreign policy plan, is not to be an isolationist, but to be a non-interventionist.
Perfect.
Okay, which is exactly the opposite of what you see going on in this country right now. If you want to know what my plan would be with foreign countries, look at what's going on right now and realize we would be doing a complete 180-degree turn in the opposite direction of what you see today. We've got boots on the ground, Army troops all over the globe. What we have today is a modern-day empire. And if you look at history, which I love to look at history, history repeats itself, okay? And if history repeats itself, we've got to look at empires from the past and what always happened to those empires. The Roman Empire, if you look at Napoleon and his empire, they all fought. We have a modern-day empire. We've got to start reeling this thing in, or we will fall too. My plan is to bring all these Army troops home, because it is unconstitutional to have boots on the ground on foreign soil like that. We can still have a military presence around the world and be constitutional, because Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution states that we can have a standing Navy. We can have the Navy in all sorts of hot spots around the globe and still be constitutional. And if you think what the Navy entails, of course, the personnel, the fleet, the amphibious Marines and SEALs, but it also includes naval aviators, so we've got air support as well.
Everything.
We've got what we need right there, and we can be in international waters, but be in hot spots of the world if we need to be. At the same time, it's time for the United States of America to stop being the police of the world. We've got to start taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. Well,
we are in a situation. We're in a situation right now, Howard, where if we don't start taking care of ourselves and we keep worrying about issues that really don't affect us or shouldn't be affecting us, then we're going to end up losing this country.
You're absolutely right. I couldn't agree with you more, Robby. And what I see of this going is exactly that. They're taking all the funds, resources, these internationalists out of our country. The jobs are all these mega corporations and conglomerates are all, they're all making huge profits by taking jobs away from Americans, keeping the Americans dumbed down through the education system, which is just a horrific thing, the Department of Education, and just really just, I don't know, deindustrializing is the right word to use, while they build up their empire. And the empire is this military might that Halliburton and all of these other GE, these companies, in combination with the bankers, are causing, they also now they own the media. General Electric owns NBC. I mean, what is going on here?
Well, our very first president, George Washington, who is my favorite president of all time, by the way, in his farewell address, he warned us of foreign entanglements with other nations, and we should be friendly with every nation. We should trade with those that are friends with us. We should entangle with none of them.
Right.
But yet that's what we're getting right now from the UN and from NATO and so forth and so on. And here we are now as the police of the world, inflicting our United States will upon people in other countries. It's no wonder that Iran does not like us very much. We've got 40 military bases that surround the country of Iran.
Well, yes, but again,
now if Iran had 40 military bases surrounding us, we wouldn't like them very much either.
Exactly.
So we've got to rethink things, and we've got to start bringing these troops home. We brought some troops home from Iraq, but there's troops all over the globe that we can bring home.
I agree with you, Robby, and obviously non-interventional. We just got to stay out of these people's problems, and recognize, we have elements in our government, unfortunately, are corrupt, and they're in the pockets of these big corporations, and they make their moves, and they say one thing and do another thing. Then the media, just sort of complies, because the truth is that there's this, even all the information that we get is all filtered through this system to keep everybody divided. And what I liked about the first time that I really looked into you as a candidate was that your whole idea is to bring everyone together. But to bring us together, we also have to recognize the enemy, and the enemy is appear to be our friends, we have to go help these people. We'll give some love bombs to Libya. We had to free Libya so the bankers could take over basically steal Gaddafi's gold and set up a central bank. It's just their game plan is so obvious. We have to just recognize that we need to get back to sound money, like you said. You realize that. And a sound economic plan. So we have the veterans for kids plan, and now I see your viewpoint on foreign affairs, which is excellent. And we should, there's no reason for us to be there. You have the liberty point of view, so we don't have the Second Amendment we shouldn't be infringed. No more laws against that. That's excellent. And now we just have to deal with what about, you had mentioned AIDS and education. It's it goes back to this military-industrial complex. I'm not so sure that AIDS is a disease. In fact, there's evidence to prove. In fact, a good friend of mine, Dr. Len Horowitz, wrote a book called Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola, and it described the fact that the military, in fact, in 1970, the Department of Defense authorized $10 million to create a bioweapon that would attack the immune system to put into... to help with the depopulation plan. So, there are some really insidious forces that are using our government and we, the people's money, to do some really nefarious things. And the first thing to do is to understand who the enemy is. And they are the enemy. We say, why is their gas prices $5 a gallon? Well, that's because they decide to close down the refineries for maintenance, at the time, a critical point when they... So it's there's just so many ways we could stop this by literally closing the loopholes, not lying like Obama, saying, we're going to tax the oil companies, we're going to close the loopholes. It's a joke. It has to really happen. So what kind of change could you institute regarding energy? Well, in order to become energy independent, we need to look at a couple of things here in the United States that need to happen. The fact of the matter is, we rely on fossil fuels. We rely on a lot of oil right now. We cannot just snap our fingers and expect that to go away. It's not going to go away. Not in any time soon. But there's a couple of things we can do. We can make automobiles that are a lot more fuel efficient. We've got the technology to do that, that let out a lot less emissions than what is actually being let out into the environment right now. At the same time, we've got to look at how much of these fossil fuels we are actually getting from the Middle East, which is where a lot of our problems stem from. It goes back to this, though. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Robby, but it goes back to what I was just saying, because, in the Balkan Reserve, there's 3 billion recoverable barrels of oil on American soil, and the oil companies fund the environmentalists to oppose that, because it's in their interest to keep it the way they want. They want it this way, just like they want the dollar to be the world's reserve, and that's why they took out all of these criminals and the people that are on the target. If you know how to dissect them, who are they targeting? Well, anyone that wanted to be paid in euros or in gold or anything else for oil. These countries have all been sacked. It's just look. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but we're talking about the energy. I want to focus on that. I'm trying to keep this in cohesive as I can. I rant a lot. I apologize.
No, that's fine. That's fine. But I will tell you this too now, as President of the United States, I will overturn the executive orders that Bill Clinton actually put in place that protected over 1 million acres of land out in Utah that are rich with resources, where we could get basically unlimited supplies that could help us become energy independent. Becoming energy independent right here in the United States, experts will tell you that will create another 2.5 million jobs. I'm talking about creating another 2.5 million jobs by becoming energy independent right here and not relying on anybody else. The problem with our economy, Howard, is that this country has become a consumption-based economy instead of a production-based economy.
Right.
If all you do is consume, and buy, and you just produce, sell, you're going to end up going broke. That's why we're 16 trillion in debt right now. How many zeros is that behind 16?
I think it's like 12 or something. It's a tremendous number.
Yes, it's a tremendous number, and the thing about it is now you've got lawmakers saying that that's our debt, the American people's debt. Well, I never authorized congressmen to overspend. So it's not my debt, it's not your debt, okay? But yet they want to put it on us. So the whole way of thinking there has got to change. We've got to move in a different direction, and we've got to become energy independent. And by becoming energy independent, it creates jobs, but we're producing again, which will also help this economy rebound very quickly. My plan also calls for overturning NAFTA and any other trade agreement that has not been in the best interest of the United States of America. And see, here's the thing about NAFTA. In the last 15 years, we've lost 4.5 million manufacturing jobs because of NAFTA. And that number continues to increase because now all of these manufacturing jobs have gone, let's say, to Mexico. And this is very personal to me. If you look at the town that I went to high school in, it was a little mill village. It was called Graniteville, South Carolina. And the mills there employed thousands of people, and all of those thousands of people, of course, had families. So there were a huge number of people that were relying on the income that was coming from these mills. These mills made were textile mills. They made the denim for your blue jeans. Well,
right.
Now all of my friends that I went to high school with that had those jobs in those mills, they're unemployed. Some of them are homeless. The suicide rate has gone through the roof because all these jobs and these mills have closed down and they've gone to Mexico. We've got to bring the manufacturing jobs. That's another 4.5 million jobs. I'm talking about 7 million jobs right there.
Well, again, I'm sorry. That's exactly my point that I'm trying to hammer home here, Robby. Is it's these same people, because what they're doing is they're changing these manufacturers are all given incentives to deindustrialize America, and then that's the same thing we didn't even get to. I want to keep on the same subject, but we can dovetail this into immigration, because that is also part of this deindustrialization plan to lower the standard of living of the average worker. Now, overspending in government, this is all the problem, and you're addressing all of these things, and I'm hitting all the bullet points, and it's just amazing. So yeah, I didn't really mean to interrupt you, but there is definitely this correlation between these administrations, that both left and right, that say we're going to do something about getting jobs, but meanwhile they give corporations billions and incentives to have outsourcing of work.